Very interesting. A tractor in the middle of a very busy road at a very busy intersection in Ottawa. That is with a safety triangle on it. That is real interesting. I don't see any police around here. Oh, and I didn't see that that vehicle get into a crash yet. In fact, it seems to be moving out of the way for those cars. That's nice. Okay, so just before this video starts, because I'm going to splice this in with the next video I make, this is where my side-by-side is being stored at my extended, well, not extended, my family friend's place in Ottawa, which is where I am right now. This is the wagon. Those are the tire clamps I bought. We had to remove those to get it into the van. And to get it, so what happened was, I'll quickly explain. To get this thing into the van, I had to ask my former landscaping employers, which it ended on good enough terms. Again, nothing majorly bad. I had to ask them for help because it was the back end of it, the van was raised. And, well, all they had were some little ramps made of metal that were bent. And so with the help of my family friend and one of the co-employer of, well, the landscaping job I had, they went behind it, pushed it with me, and I sat in the front seat, and basically they said, once we get it up a ways, floor it in, because it was not going to fit otherwise. And so I did, and I got it half stuck. Then they pushed some more, and I floored it again, and, well, as you can see, the triangles bent. So we got it in, bending them in the process and cracking them, but that's not what broke them. No, when arriving here and then, getting the vehicle out of the van, we had no ramps. We used some wood, and my family friend and a member of their family, their immediate family, helped as we all pushed it, or tried to push it out of the van. Also, sorry if I sound dreary. I just got back from a walk exploring the district of Ottawa that I'm in. I'm quite tired. My feet are sore. And, yeah, when pushing it out, long story short, these, well, I'll just hit something and stop the recording, so let me try that again. These, well, completely snapped, making it pretty well pointless buying these, unless I'm able to salvage it, which maybe, oh yeah, these are now, the screws that were used for this. A drill was used to fasten them in, along with some nuts and bolts. They are stuck in there, and whenever I get back on the road in months from now, most likely, like next year, I'm gonna have to find a way to remove them and put these or new ones on. I might not want to use these because of how cracked they are. Could break off while driving on the fucking road. Oh yeah, and this one's just literally dangling by a thread, so great. Oh yeah, and to get the mirrors are thankfully still fine. To get it out though as well, we had to decompress the tires of air. So yeah, gonna have to find a way to inflate those again. Alright, I'm going to sit down. Enjoy the rest of the video. Okay, I know I just said in the clip that I had shot, well, now 2 nights ago, which will be before this, that just before the video started, that was going to be the clip, the only clip really that was there, but now since I'm just at a park, I feel I'm just going to take a quick minute to show you what I'm sitting on. This very strangely designed bench. So so I was going to say, because I was gonna say, like, for this video, if this was the first bench that I saw designed like this, you had one job to do, whoever the crafter of this was. But this is actually the second bench at a park I've seen like this in Ottawa. Literally, there's a park down that way, on the opposite end of the district I'm in, and there's another bench just like this, with an elongated other end. So, yeah, I don't know if this is just a common design here in Ottawa. I've never seen a bench made like this before. I can't imagine right now what the purpose of this longer half here is. Maybe if they like had to tip it up and like prop it up on something. I don't know, but anyone in the comments, if you live in Ottawa, please let me know. Okay, now this is actually gonna start, so. Did it hit it? Okay. Yep, okay, it's going. Yeah, so, welcome to Ottawa. Or, well, welcome myself, I guess, to Ottawa, the capital, and again, I'm pretty sure, well, I think 5th largest city in Canada. So, anyway, also, again, sorry about any lens flares, that get shown when I move my head, because the sun is just beaming directly behind me. Yeah, and also sorry if I sound a little strange, I have a bit of a sore throat. My family friend, who I'm, as of right now, currently staying with, or have been staying with the past, well, week or so since I got here, and who drove me up here, still, unfortunately, they contracted COVID, and I don't, as far as we're aware, I don't have it. We've been taking I've been taking some rapid antigen tests that they've had for the past week, and so have they at points too. But every day I've been negative. Now obviously there's false positive and false negative tests, but consistently each day in a row having a false negative test I would consider to be highly unlikely. But anyway, thought it might have been possibly a strep throat, but I checked with a light in my mouth, and no, it doesn't look like I have a streptococcal virus. I had streptococcal when I was at my extended relative's cottage for about maybe 3 days or 4 days or so earlier in the summer. But yeah. So let me preface by saying this right now. What I'm going to talk about in this video, firstly, is, well, I'll say, I'm going to be talking about, well, further talking about the betrayal, and the downright just deception from my family members. Again, not using names of any kind, and not using their positions in my life. I'm going to be further talking about that. And I'm also going to touch on my thoughts on, well, mainly it's going to it's going to pertain to losing family members of mine, like relationship-wise, losing a friendship, which I already talked about, but I will talk about in more depth. It will also, as usual, pertain to my ongoing existential / morality crisis, and my psychological well-being right now. And just as well going forward, what I'm going to be doing in Ottawa. How long I'll be here, and yeah, just all that, which again, I've already given details about in previous videos. But, so, I'm sure some of you who are watching this at least have seen my final videos of me being at my relative's cottage, and how I was fuming mad because one of them decided to be a very reactionary, bumbling idiot and, well, report my travel plans to the headquarters of the Ontario Provincial Police, and they transferred it, the report, to the Peterborough units. So, yeah, it'll pertain to that, this video. So, if you, like I said, if you saw that video of me being furious beyond imagine, for me at least, well, not beyond imagine, being beyond furious at them, well, then you know that I talked about everything, or a lot of things that I have been doing well up at that cottage, how what they did, and the relatives who sided with this person, because, well, they're either pushovers or they have a sense of egotistical age superiority, because I also discussed the blatant ageism. So, yeah, I discussed about how it was basically a slap in the face, what this person did. And as well as that I left the cottage in complete disarray. I left it a mess. Didn't break anything, didn't tag the walls with spray paint, or rip curtains off or anything. I threw towels all over the place. I left dirty dishes for them to do. I left pillow cushions just out on the floor. And I left food that I wasn't going to take with me in the fridge. And I left trash that was in trash bags that I had taken the time to put into bags inside the cottage. In bags, though. And other bits of cardboard I just left out on the table. So, yeah. Anyway, if you've seen the last, well, I guess I'd say 3 videos, but if you saw the change of plans video and the moving forward and losing a friendship video, well, then you probably know quite a bit of what I'm talking about. I will say, though, before it starts, this is... sorry if I'm a bit distant right now. I'm just, because of how I'm feeling, I'm, I guess, a bit dissociated, and it is cold. But, this video will be the last I talk in depth about what happened. At least for a long while on this channel. It'll be the last that I mention it. I'm obviously, if you can't tell, I am still, as I've taken a week to reflect upon all this, I am still internally furious. I am still very piping mad, as I still feel is very much deserved. But I'm not going to, as unfortunately some of my family members seem to think, I'm not going to dwell on it. I am still going to hold this anger because I feel it is important. But I'm not, despite what you may think, going to dwell on it, as I feel it is a waste of my energy. Once this video is done, I'm going to focus on what is here in Ottawa and things that I have going on for myself and also people in relation to me here going forward for the most part. So I'm not going to dwell on it because I feel it's a waste of my energy. That being said, right here and now, so let me lay this out. The day, I'm going to further explain something so that if any of my family members are watching, they really, no, actually, I'm gonna reiterate this because I know I said it before, but I'm gonna reiterate it. Or at least I said while I was in that angry state in the cottage, the night before I was going to leave, getting everything ready to go. I'm really gonna hone in on just how big of a stab to the heart this was. So, I get up to that cottage with the help from in Lakeville when I broke down on my motorized bike of some relatives in the area. I look after your cottage for 4 whole months. 4 whole months. I got there in May, or at the very least, I believe the end of May, because I left Toronto a week after the 22nd. So yes, about end of May, beginning of June, I got to that cottage. I stayed there almost entirely until September 20th. Pretty well 4 months. You want to count it as 3.5? Fine, go ahead. Or a little bit more than 3.5, or about 3.5. It's still beyond, let's say, 3 months. It's still, I was up there for the whole summer of what is considered, like, let's go by schooling desertion of it, like summer vacation here in Canada lasts 2 months. So I was up there for even while school was ending for people, because as I've said, I believe I said in my before leaving Toronto video, that not leaving Toronto, before leaving the cottage videos, that I dropped out of high school. So I stayed up there for a whole summer. I was running around all the surrounding counties on a motorized bicycle, on a golf cart, and on a side-by-side the whole time, gathering necessities for me to survive, putting out going and searching for job applications and leaving my resumes, the few that I had with me on hand at businesses in the local areas, going out and exploring, putting myself in situations to see what I may understand, realize, to help with the crisis, like philosophical crisis that I'm dealing with. and for help as well with my psychologic state. Gained 2 jobs, a landscaping job that I broke my back at, running around hauling lumber in swampy, brushy marsh, getting eaten alive by mosquitoes and insects of the sort, coming back to that place exhausted after those days, having to quit said landscaping job because of a conflict of interest, as I'll call it, with the employers. Then again scrambling around to find another job on an electric golf cart and a side-by-side, going all around, teaching myself how to drive said small vehicles safely, well trained and safely. That's something I will give myself credit for, as I definitely know how to drive it well. Gaining another job, a restaurant job in a village called McCracken's Landing, working there for about 2 months until I had to leave the cottage, busting my ass again at that place of work. Oh, and as well as when I was driving my side-by-side to said job, having to park it at someone else's house in the village of Crow's Landing where I was staying, where the cottage is, at the dark of night, walking up through a trail into the woods where all I had was my flashlight on my phone, and I carried a hatchet that I had purchased as for protection in case any animals were to come up behind me or anything, or if there was some person on the trail, which, despite what some of you may think that sounds paranoid, no. Go yourself, walk through a dark wooded area at night. Go walk through, or no, how about my relatives go walk through that trail at night with nothing but a flashlight? Because some of them actually were getting annoyed with me that I was carrying a hatchet around with me in the dark. Too bad. I am not walking a dangerous, dark trail in the middle of the woods at night without some form of protection. You are beyond stupid if you think that I'm not going to do that. So, anyway. Doing all that. Cleaning the cottage regularly, other than the dishes. Cleaning the cottage regularly. Disinfecting the floors, the walls, the washrooms, the tubs, vacuuming the entire place, dusting around all the knickknacks, all that. Just taking care of the place while people weren't there. As well as paying the hydro bill for the fucking place for 4 months. Now, some of my relatives, or one of them actually, one of the ones who I actually thought actually somewhat understood my ethical dilemma and why I was even up at the cottage in the first place, which clearly they did not at all after a text message that I received from them. Clearly did not at all. Completely misinterpreted it. As same with this apparent friend in Toronto who I've grown to be a lot more angry at this past week. They haven't texted me back or anything. No. Just after thinking about all this a lot more, grown to be very, 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 very angry at. Anyway, a text message they sent me saying, you should be basically thankful that you didn't have to pay a lot more than you did, $76 a month for the hydro bill, because we all pay a lot more of that a year to keep that place running. I don't care. Yeah, I'm sorry you have to pay a lot more. That does not negate the amount of money I paid for it. I pitched in, all right? It does not negate it. I spent, in total over those 4 months, $76 a month. Round from what my family friend and me estimated, $320. I don't care whether you have to pay a hell of a lot more. That's still a lot of money. For me as well, especially with my dwindling funds. It doesn't matter. If you genuinely think that that is not a high amount of money, I will say this again, as I've said before, that is expensive. Something of that caliber. To pay $320 for that. If you don't think that that's a lot of money, then you don't have a good grasp, in my opinion, on money. You don't. So, paying that. Oh, and another thing I actually think I forgot to mention in that rant video the last night I was at the cottage, that I offered to pay for repairs to, at that cottage, we had a septic tank that had gotten damaged over the years. I was not the only one using that, by the way, to people who got frustrated with me, albeit, yes, one day taking a little longer of a shower than I should have. Sorry about that. But behaving more and so that I was the one that was, since I was there the most, contributing to the most backup of it and further damaging it. No, according to some other people I talked to, it's because it wore down over the years. So anyway, besides that, we had a septic tank. It was damaged. The cost to repair that, a lot of people said they estimated was about maybe $8,500. I offered to pay around $200 to $300 to help pitch in to repair it, because that's all I could offer at the time. People refused. They declined. They said, no, we'll cover it. Either way, I fucking offered and was willing to pay it. Sorry also if I'm not looking directly at the camera, like lens, it's an odd angle again. And again, it's cold and I was sweating, so I just took off my jacket and stuff to get some air on it, and it's just, well, my psychosomatic neurological issues, some of them are acting up, but anyway. So after all that, and also, as I mentioned, being alienated for a lot of the summer. Now, this relative thinks that just merely letting someone into a conversation is not alienation. That's complete crap. That's a farce. That's bullshit. Alienation is basically feeling isolated or stigmatized in some way. Well, it can pertain to stigma, but feeling isolated, not physically, emotionally, psychologically, from your surrounding environment or your people in a social environment around you. It's happened with, there's like examples of it could be cultural alienation, class alienation, beauty alienation, I guess, could be as well. Well, it is one as well. Body alienation and isolation, just exclusion, like psychological exclusion or intellectual exclusion. So, basically, they said, we didn't alienate you. You chose to not join us in conversations. We gave you that option. Actually, I did join in at points. And as I mentioned in, I believe it was my first before leaving the cottage video, all I did was sit there because I didn't feel I needed to add anything to certain conversations. And when I would pipe in or discuss things with people at points, when I would just be sitting, minding my own business in the cottage, trying not to piss anyone off or aggravate anyone, because I would just let you all do your own thing for your time at the cottage. Very passive-aggressive answers to a lot of what I would say, or very dismissive, just, oh yeah, no, yeah, well, you'll figure it out. Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah. It's a lot of that. I know that's a little bit more oversimplified, but that's the gist of it, basically. So, when I would join in, or when I did have some full-on conversations with people, as it clearly now seems, as I guess I might have somewhat suspected, no one understood what I was talking about. It's very clear that you misinterpreted everything, really, that I said. You didn't bother. Here's the options. Either you misinterpreted everything I said, or you didn't even bother to hear it or listen in the first place. Those are the two options. And so, basically, after all that, for a whole summer, then to get this phone call from a officer of a relative of mine telling me a relative of mine had detailed my plan of travel. Well, yeah. Stab in the back. By the way, actually, and I don't want to bring my family friend, who I'm currently staying with, into this any further than they've been brought into it, but just to preface this, because they've talked to some of my relatives as well, and they've vocalized their opinion on this. So directly to, not just to my relatives, or to that friend in Toronto, or to the specifically, I guess this is more directly specifically at the relative who reported me. This person who I'm staying with agrees with me that you should not have reported me to the police. And guess what? They're a former officer themselves. As well, as I believe that I might have mentioned that this relative who reported me is a former officer also. So, yeah, they agree with me on that matter, that they thought it was completely unreasonable of you to report me. Hold on a sec, I'm just gonna... putting this on because it is actually getting a little chilly. There's some bit of possible storm clouds coming over this area. So anyway, so let me just say this as well now. After reflecting on my behavior, my reaction, because I didn't just reflect on what they chose to go forth with. I reflected on my reaction this past week to everything that's gone on. Now let's say I left the cottage a mess except for one person's room, which I'm still very glad that I left untouched, and actually was the only room that I bothered to clean before leaving. Do I regret making the place a mess before departing? Partially. I'll say this. Maybe I regret making the place a further mess than it was when I was in the process of cleaning it for you before me leaving. Maybe I regret that. Maybe I'm getting to a point where I think I should have not strewn like excess pillow cushions out on the floor, or excess bed sheets everywhere, or towels. But what I definitely don't regret is leaving the mess that I was in the process of cleaning just out and about. I don't regret leaving the dirty dishes for them to do. I don't regret leaving the food in the fridge. I don't regret leaving the trash that was in bags just in the cottage. And I don't regret leaving some amount of towels that was on the furniture that I was going to put away just out. So if I do end up fully regretting making a mess, making it further a mess, like the other extra added stuff, I don't regret the parts of the mess that were just there while I was cleaning it. So I don't regret that. So I'll say I'll partially regret it. I right now partially regret it. But even if, as well, I will say, even if I did fully regret leaving the place a mess, I am still very much furious, absolutely furious at the betrayal of people, yet again, of people I thought I could trust. So, what are we at now? Oh, it's about to chop itself into another bit. Whatever. Oh, I'm getting deja vu. That God, I really can't escape drag racing anywhere, I guess, in this country. If you don't know, the law of Toronto is infamous for nightly drag races, especially in the area that the district I lived in. Yeah, guess can't escape into the major cities. But anyway, also that gave me deja vu to the first video I made on my journey here, leaving Toronto. Evidently sitting in a park as well, on a bench of some kind. But anyway, I'm starting to realize that a lot of people in my close life, well, actually, no, it seems I had realized that this pertained to my whole questions of human nature and existential crisis bit of this, where I'm questioning how, if humans really are just sociopathic or very selfish in of themselves fully, and we just put on a mask to hide it more so, or we only enact empathetic behavior to basically benefit ourselves fully, like subconsciously or consciously to do so, because we know we'll receive some sort of praise or benefit from it, I guess, in a more histrionic stance. Anyway, but aside from that, let's go into my immediate relations right now. It's very clear that, well, it's not just the person or one of the people in my former household in Toronto who, has heavy histrionic and egotistical traits. Now, I don't know if these people in my family have histrionic personality disorder per se. It doesn't seem like it. Or at least, if they do, they are, I wouldn't say very good, but they are a bit more... They have a bit more of a grasp on hiding it, I guess. But, well, I can definitely say they have many people in my family, it seems, have a very histrionic mentality. But that being said, well, okay. Here's the best way it seems that I can describe my family members. You know the scene in the American version of The Office, where Pam, Toby, and Oscar create the Finer Things Club, where it's basically just them trying to use different aspects of foreign culture to... They basically, like, commodify aspects of foreign culture to just escape their boring-ass work life. And in more of like an over-fetishizing or over-exotifying way of those cultures, or at least the way I interpreted that scene. Yeah, that whole little plot point with them in that episode, that's my family. That is my family. Not the whole culture thing, but basically behaving like a bunch of snobs who are very, very judgmental. They call... Interesting. Some things some people in my family have called me judgmental. God, the amount of very petty and very shallow... I don't want to say gossip, because I kind of think, well, really everyone gossips. If you have an opinion on, like, someone else and you want to bring it up to someone close to you, that technically, I guess, could be a form of gossip. But I don't really have another word to describe it other than they are basically... Well, they're basically a bunch of... Not all of them, but many of them, they behave like popular teenagers, like the popular cliques in schools who just never grew out of that mentality. Not even, no, I don't want to even say grew out of it, like learned that mentality is detrimental and really shallow and shitty. Again, I should also mention as well, while I was up there, them getting blasted drunk every time, and leaving the place a mess while they were there. It doesn't matter to me, really, even if you... It didn't matter to me, really, so much. Now that I know I was harping on this somewhat in the video I made while there the last day, it doesn't even bother me, really, that they made a mess while there, because I did that. I left the dishes out. It got ahead of me. Yes, I left it a bit messy. What bothers me, though, is that they trashed the place, made it a mess while staying there, but then have the gall to get annoyed at me for the fucking dishes and fucking just leaving the kitchen a mess. They get mad at me for that, for leaving it dirty as it was, which I did eventually clean up as well, especially even in later half while I was there alone. Them getting pissy at me for that, but yet having the gall to do it themselves while they were there. And once again, I also mentioned, there was at points when they would leave, they didn't even fully clean up sometimes. I would find trash in the cottage. And I picked out those beer cans from, oh, by the way, this one person who also, basically, I'll also go into this. These people, I also was in contact with another one of them who also seems to have heavy traits of, heavy A-type traits. Likes things a very particular way, and I don't mean A-type if you don't know what that means. It's personality trait. There's A-type personality disorder. Basically, it's not that you're organized or anything, or like you're very neat, very cleanly or anything. It means basically you like it a certain way, whether you're clean, cleanly or not, whether you're live more and let things get a little dirtier. It doesn't even pertain to cleaning, just systems in general, like social systems you have, people you interact with, daily activities, government, or your beliefs, whatever you hold. Like, it's very particular. It's very specific. So this person has very heavy traits, or at least what I picked up on from interacting them after my own psychoanalysis of them, like just from myself, after talking with them a bit, it seemed like heavy traits of A-type. Well, basically, I was actually going to print off a text message that they sent me, just to read it here, to get an idea of the, blatant dismissal and, again, ageism and manipulation. Basically, this person, after they found out that I had left the cottage a mess, they sent me a text saying, "Okay, this is beyond disappointing. I thought you were a decent kid. I held you to such a high standard. After all, you are the grandchild of people in my family. So I held you to a higher standard. This is very disappointing. You clearly are troubled," basically. They actually, no, they said, not even basically, they said, "You clearly are troubled. This family has done nothing but provide you alternatives and tried to help you and guide you." Basically, just all the traditionalists, I'm an adult, this is how I look like, I know what I'm talking about. Like, fueling their, basically, I'll say their, at the very least, their sense of, or their fragile ego, it seems. Or their heightened ego, I guess would be a better word to say. Heightened sense of self. So, anyway, then they just said, "I wish you all the best for the future in Ottawa." And I then sent them back a text saying, "Let me tell you something. The amount of disrespect to me here is beyond insulting." I detailed everything I just said about all the shit that I had been doing over the summer with the cottage, staying there. By the way, as well, I didn't even, here's another thing, there were 2 nights where I didn't even fucking stay there. One night, as evident in the first before leaving the cottage video, I pulled an all-nighter in the nearby town of Lakefield after trying to get some necessities, but that plan not turning out, and my golf cart not having enough charge to get back before dark. As well as there was a night that I, after gathering some necessities with another relative who evidently also took the side of this other individual who informed the police
after we went on a trip into Peterborough and Lakefield to get things specifically, some of their own money, by the way, paid for it with their own money to get for my trip up, and I pay with my own money for certain things to get just for necessities for me. It's just getting necessities for me to get on the road. After that, I slept outside of the restaurant I was working at because I didn't want to burden them with giving me rides back and forth from the cottage. So I was planning on, with most of my stuff that I needed in the immediate, to sleep outside of the restaurant for the rest of my time there, working there. I slept one night out beside a porta potty in the dark in my sleeping bag. But then I talked with some coworkers of mine, and they basically said no, they're not taking no for an answer. They are driving me from now on. They didn't want me sleeping out there, not because they saw me as riffraff or anything, just, well, because they seemingly cared about me. Which, by the way, my coworkers at the restaurant were a million times, especially the one I mentioned before, who helped me gather necessities, the last one who helped me gather necessities before leaving, or what was supposed to be for my trip up, which I spent a hell of a lot of money on again to get the said equipment needed. Basically, they were a million times more helpful than any of the really just generic shit that most of you people, my family, gave as advice to me. So, yeah. What else? Let's see. Oh yeah, so I laid out all of what I had done for the whole cottage and all that for the whole summer. And also I mentioned, it's funny how nobody bothered to inform the police while I was driving the side-by-side in the local counties for the 2 weeks that I was using it, that I was actively using it. Nobody bothered to inform them then, and they fully were aware that I was using it, and it didn't have safety triangles attached to it at that point, or a license plate, and I didn't have a license. Or nobody bothered to inform the police when I was leaving Toronto on a motorized bike, taking major road routes and highways to get up to Crow's Landing. Nobody bothered to then. And yes, I know that bike did not require a license. That doesn't matter. It still wasn't legally allowed on those roads. Oh, and here's another thing that I'm getting really tired of, this traditionalist mindset as well. I love how everyone, it's so incredible. These people, my family, they just would sit around and talk. They pretended to care about important subject matter, but yet the moment that someone actually, okay, here's an example of what my family is like I just said with the whole office scenario. Them talking a lot as they basically be these kinds of people. Oh yes, that's a very important issue. We've really got to do something about that. Well, I think it's an issue with politics, and I think it's really we've really got to step up our game as as humans, and we got to really just people got to come together as a community. We gotta accept people, and it's an endangerment to our children. We've really, as adults, we've gotta tackle this issue importantly. They're very performative. I'll say it's performative. I guess you could say a form of performative advocism, or it's not activism because you're not really doing anything. Okay. it's performative. They were very, very performative, very fake. And but when it would come to someone actually going against the problems that were being caused by, say, oh, I don't know, a shitty law, then it's, no, it's illegal. Don't do that. Because the law said so. I should also mention, probably, and I don't want to make this like a whole... Okay, to anyone out there who doesn't want to get vaccinated, say, for COVID, or is an anti-vaxxer of some sorts, again, I logically believe that you can hold your opinion, do what you want, speak your mind, as long as you're not hurting anyone else. I believe you're free to exercise that right. But I will say, a portion of my family do seem to have at least some form of an anti-vaxxer mindset. And I don't, again, with my whole thing about accepting others' beliefs, no matter what it may be, as long as they're not endangering anyone in a great way, I don't want to... I'll just say, I don't want to sound like I'm being, like... having, like, more... being, like, feeling superior in this regard, because, well, that's further egotistical than it already... Well, everyone, as I've said before, has traits of personality characteristics. That being egotism as well. Everyone does. But I'm just gonna say, I'm not, with everything else that's happened and their subtle anti-vaxxer mindset, I'm just gonna say I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised by it. Also, fair to say that some of them are also subtly transphobic. I'd say one of them is subtly racist. Considering the fact that one of them was basically saying, like, I remember they got into a conversation once about the whole Ryerson University in Toronto changing its name, which I personally am all for, mainly because it's an educational institute, and it's calling it Ryerson is hailing a man who actively contributed to the cultural genocide of thousands of indigenous children. So basically in some form of a way, a form of Hitlerianism. But yeah, so I don't agree with the fact that it was called Ryerson. I didn't even know until it was actually when they were coming to change the name that Ryerson had any involvement with that. I didn't even know fully who he was. But I'm glad that they changed the name. Basically, they were these people. They said, like, God, everything's so politically correct now. Like, you can't have an opinion on anything, or you can't... it happened to, literally, I remember they said, but I get, like, the whole racist thing, like, the whole, like, it was part of the residential schools, but it happened, like, years ago. I'm so sick and tired again, as well as, again, your opinion, fine, but from my stance, I'm bloody well sick and tired of the whole it happened years ago stance. It doesn't fucking matter. Oh, by the way, so if your stance is, and this is probably going to strike a nerve with some people, your stance is that it happened years ago, let's forget about it, then let's forget the veterans of World War II. Let's forget the veterans of World War I, or let's forget about the Jewish internment camps in World War II, the Holocaust, or let's forget about the, what is the Ukrainian famine? Holodomor, I believe that's what it was called. Let's forget about that. Let's forget about the Rwandan genocide, the Hutus genocide against the Tutsis. Let's forget about all that. Let's forget about Tiananmen Square. Let's forget about the Tiananmen Square massacre in China in 1989, I believe it was, or 1988. Let's forget about that. So basically, these people don't realize that they hold a stance for one thing, and then they're completely hypocritical and contradictory for the other. So if you really feel that, then it should be for those other things as well. To just let it go, in a sense. Let go of mass cultural genocide and alienation, back to alienation and isolation of a native Canadian culture and thievery of land that they wanted to share with the settlers and the colonists, but we fucked them over. So basically, to just forget about all that. Which, by the way, despite we may think cultural alienation very much still exists, and ethnic alienation is very much apparent. And anyway, so what's the mark now? 56 minutes. Okay. So basically, I called them out on their crap about why they didn't report me then to the police after taking these vehicles all around without a license and being safe on the roads, pulling out of the way for traffic, watching for pedestrians, maintaining as fast as I could go at a speed limit. None of my vehicles could reach the speed limits exactly for many of the major roads. No. But I kept it to a fast enough pace to keep up with cars when there was heavy activity on the roads. Or as I would say, I would pull out of the way for them so that they could actually go past me. So basically, when I said all that, they text back to me, "Welcome to being an adult." So, yeah, that was... They say, "Welcome to being an adult. We tried to give you alternative advice and you just didn't want to take it." And then when I continued to call them out on it, they basically just said, "Cam, here's the ageism. Here's more of the ageism." They said, "Cam, you're 18 years old. You still have so much to learn. I once thought I knew it all when I was 18 years old, too." If you haven't seen my video on ageist manipulation, which was part 4 of Before Leaving the Cottage, I implore you to go check that out. Because I'll just be repeating pretty well the exact same thing I said there. But here's what really pissed me off the most about all this. After talking with a friend of mine recently who has been a seemingly genuine companion, they thought I was describing it as more so like, okay, well, Cam, I don't think, look at it from their worldview, I don't think they were planning on, like, the whole time calling the police, which I didn't mean to say it like that. I didn't think that they were planning on calling the police the whole time, telling the police of it. But what aggravated me so much is the fact that these people, with their fake sincerity, they pretended at points when it seemed like they would actually listen, and when I was talking to them about the issues that I was facing, they would praise me for, in their opinion, thinking that I was highly intelligent. That's not me saying that I'm highly intelligent. Do I think that, logically, do I think that I'm intelligent enough? Yeah, here's, I guess, a narcissistic tendency there, is that, yeah, I do think that I'm an intelligent person who's able of critical thought and reasoning and admitting when they are wrong and recognizing their flaws and trying to work at it, as I am doing, which is one of the reasons I am up here. Not from my opinion, their opinion of me is they would tell me they thought I was very intelligent and knew what I was talking about with what I was discussing with them. For them to give that false praise, then disrespect me, not leave me to my own devices, to what, again, they said that they thought I knew what I was talking about with this, to then just completely brush me aside. No, this is clearly what it seems to be. Either, I guess it's a possibility that they thought, okay, if he does do this, we're going to inform the police. But the more likely possibility, it seems, is that most of them were basically had the thought process of, okay, we'll humor him with this. We'll listen to him about what he's saying. We'll praise him. We'll say, "Oh, you're so smart. You know, you're very intelligent. You know what you're talking about." But he's not actually going to go through with it. We don't think he's actually going to go through with this. Basically, that's what the mentality seemed to be. Basically, and also it again, very familiar mentality, considering flashbacks to oh yeah, people in my former household in Toronto, pertaining to me dropping out of school. So, one second. Okay, all right. Yeah, sorry, it's getting quite cold out. But anyway, giving me false praise, false, what's the word I'm looking for? False, just false sincerity, false trust, false respect, and just either internally, like, cognitively just brushing me off, and pretending that they cared, or just not understanding in the first place, and just pretending that they did, because that's what you're supposed to do as an adult, right? As a family figure, right? God, it's so incredible how people really do, so many people in this world have reaching, it seems, egotistical tendencies or traits, or full-blown have egotistical personality disorder. It's so incredible how people are insecure about their self-esteem, their intelligence, or the meaning in their life. Like, to a point where they'll just they will talk for the sake of talking. They talk because they want to feel important. They want to gratify just feeling like they want to feel like they matter at any cost. Well, I can definitely say I don't relate. I don't personally just talk for the sake of talking. If it wasn't evident to you by me being silent in conversations up there, I don't just speak unless I feel like I actually have something to say, or unless I care about what is being said. I don't talk because I feel I need to, it's because I want to. And again, going back to, it seems like this one relative who reported me may have a savior complex. The way I identify a savior complex, at least in terms of me for psychology and things like that, I don't identify it as being whatever it may pertain to, whether you, like white savior issues regarding people being performative activists, or gay saviors, I guess they'll call it, or just saviors of another group of people, or saviors of what's another one? Saviors of someone in a drastic or terrible situation, someone being abused. I don't consider just someone like I don't consider that a savior mentality. Because if we're being honest, then anyone who has any form of job that involves humanitarianism or just helping a friend in any way, that can be considered even so much as a subtle savior mentality. Maybe it's a tendency of it, yeah, fine. But having a savior complex, if we're going to go that far, then all doctors and all researchers and scientists and all community workers or environmental workers, or cops, or fire control workers, they all have a savior mentality then, or like a savior complex, because they are doing a job that helps people. Or hell, even if someone enjoys doing retail work, if they're a grocer of some kind, they like running a grocery store or something, and they genuinely like giving food to their community, then well, then that can be considered, if we're going to go that far, that'd be considered a savior complex. I consider a savior complex to, this is how I would identify a savior complex, at least from my own critical discerning of it. It isn't so much, it's not a savior complex. I consider a savior complex to be someone feeling like, because of who they are, that they need to help someone or something, that it's their duty to help someone or something, rather than them actually, okay, that was stuck, rather than them actually wanting to help someone or something. I don't consider wanting, actually genuinely caring and having compassion and like being passionate about something and wanting to help someone, I don't consider that a savior complex. I consider that want coming from a place of feeling like, because of who you are, you need to, that is intrinsically your moral obligation to, because of, say you're a white person and you feel you need to contribute to colored communities in disparity, basically, black communities, Latino communities, Arab communities, whatever else. You basically feel like you need to support them because you are white, because of how abysmally much of your culture or your ethnic background has treated other ethnic backgrounds or cultures, or basically if you're an, or what's another example, if you're an elitist, or like, well, not an elitist, I'd say maybe like, well, if you're ultra rich and you actually donate your money, you actually actively redistribute your wealth in great sums to help people of lower classes, impoverished, lower middle class, standardized middle class, all that, you contribute to helping, funding them, and organizations helping them. sorry, someone just lost their ball. If you can't tell, I'm sitting right by a basketball court. Anyway, someone of upper class only donating to lower classes because they feel it's their moral obligation to, because of their high-end wealth, and rather than basically just doing something because you feel you have to, rather than you actively wanting to. That's what I consider a savior complex to be. Having an overbearing desire to like contribute in helping someone in some way, because you feel that you have a sense of, well, you feel like you need to save them, basically. You feel like only, or going even further than that, that you feel that only someone like you can help them or save them and bring them up, basically be their saving grace. That's what I consider a savior complex to be. Now, people can disagree with me on that. I'm open, obviously, to discuss with me whatever you want. Leave comments on it if you want. Give me your opinions on whatever else. But that's right now the opinion I hold on it, is that that's what I would consider a savior complex to be. So, basically, it seems to be that a lot of my family members, given the ages that they are, and this is where it's coming in again with ageism, they feel that they have to guide the young in the right direction, that they have to, or in what is so-called the right direction, and more with their whole traditionalist social mindset, to just guide them in what is supposedly true. Because they feel they have to, not because they actually want to. And here's another thing that I come back to this as well here, if from what it seems like now a hypocritical stance, how one of my relatives basically told me, well, they told me you're 18, you have so much to learn, and then they also felt like saying welcome to being an adult, basically, in a sense contradicting themselves. I'm really getting tired of this whole... I'm getting really tired of people going like, protect the children, but then those exact same people going, oh, you're 18, fuck off, basically. Basically them saying, we need to protect our youth, we need to help them in whatever way possible, we need to get them into safer situations, help with their mental health and their psychological health, and physical health as well, make sure that they're safe and attended to. But once, at least in the Western world, or, well, not even the Western world, there are many, again, what is legally an adult, it varies between countries, but what many people, I guess, socially would, go away from that, socially consider to be an adult in many parts of the world, once they hit 18, basically just saying, well, you're an adult now. Now, that might seem hypocritical of me to say, because I have said legally I am an adult and I should be allowed to make my own choices. Yes, I absolutely feel that you should be allowed at least, I think, 18 for many things. Not all, but many, is a well enough age to A, be released from parental guardianship and have your own, basically have your own full autonomy. But, okay, anyway, I feel that it legally you should be considered an adult at that age. Be allowed to make choices, left to your own devices in certain regards. Now, do I believe that in all regards? No, even though, yes, I'm questioning my beliefs of, well, my values and things like that, but I've talked about in videos and before what I think about, like, legal ages of consent in terms of sexual activity, how I think, well, I logically think that the age of consent for beyond 2 years of, like, people beyond 2 years your age should be raised to maybe 22. Now, that doesn't pertain to, like, pornography or things like that, or going into that field. 18, I still think, is fine enough an age for that. Or realistically, that pertains to iffy issues where I don't think laws... We know, okay, this is more of an anarchist field on it, again, or, like, stance on it. That laws they may deter some people from committing a crime, but it doesn't on a wide scale really. Laws, and I believe this, just having a law won't prevent a crime from happening. But anyway, that's why logically I'm not fully an anarchist, though, is because I think some form of laws can, the most bare bones and basic things in a libertarian stance, have some effect. But anyway, what I'm saying is, I'm getting to, I think legally, 18, you should be considered an adult. But here's a little tidbit of insight, I guess, for some people. Just because you're an adult does not mean you should just suddenly lose compassion for that person. I'm getting really tired of this mindset that protect the children at all costs. But then the second that you're 18, well, no more sympathy or empathy for you then. Oh well. I'm getting really tired of that. I wish, and this is why I don't like demeaning children's intelligence, because I feel that mental maturity and intellectual maturity varies depending on age, learning concepts and understanding them well. I believe it varies depending on who you are, how your your nervous system forms, your brain structure. I feel it varies drastically from person to person. But, so I treat children like just on an intellectual level in conversation. I don't like demeaning them. And if they know a concept, and it's very clear that they've demonstrated that they know a concept, I will talk to them about that concept as if they were an equal age to me. I don't, because I treat them not as children, as a fucking human being. I feel that people should just treat, no matter your age, no matter your sex, no matter your race, religion, whatever else, sexuality, just socially, intellectually, in conversation, treat them as a person. Now, I don't want to say okay, intellectually, like conversation-wise, don't look at people in terms of age as a number. Physically, yes, look at them as a number, absolutely. I am not condoning, because that can get into iffy issues of fucking condoning herbophilia and pedophilia or pedophilia. I don't condone that in terms of like physical engagement. I don't, in the slightest. At least logically, don't at all condone that as a horrible detriment to children's health, which I take very seriously, as you can clearly tell. But I'm saying, so physically, yes, look at someone as a number in terms of age. Physically. Intellectually, however, assess. It's so funny. There are many people that say like, oh, I mentally feel like I'm 16, but I mentally feel like I'm 35, or people joke around about how they say like when they're being more eccentric or goofy or like comedic, that oh, I'm 25 years old, but I have like the mentality of a 12-year-old, like in the terms of the jokes that they make. So funny that we're able to do that, but we're not actually able to willingly accept people's cognitive abilities. We're not willing to, people aren't willing to actually engage with people well enough. And I do believe that leads to a major form of social isolation. It has for me for many years, as I don't know if that's apparent, but no, what am I saying? I'm going to say probably sure that is apparent. But anyway, Also, so basically, I would like to also reiterate as well, these people in my family, basically, a lot of what they were saying to me after all this shit transpired, it was basically them trying to use another form of manipulation, I guess. Well, that was dismissal. It was dismissal what this one relative did to me, saying I'm 18, I have so much to learn. Very aware of that, by the way. So do you. I don't care if you're like, what are you, 40, 43? You're in your 40s, or like late 30s, somewhere around there. You still have lots to learn. Clearly, you never grew out of I guess I'll call it, a popular... some people are getting very excited about the basketball game they're having, but never grew out of this popularity contest mentality, I guess. And also very clearly are histrionic in some way. So what I want to say, I guess, is that these people also, when texting me in these last few days, they use a form of manipulation, basically, what's the word for it? Well, demeaning, I guess, demeaning a person in some way. Basically, well, not really demeaning, I'm just gonna refer to this more as being egotistical again. Overly egotistical, where basically they say they wish me well in life, which, you know what, on some semblance I don't doubt. I wish people well. I'm gonna preface this again. Sorry, I'm getting very cold. I don't wish spite upon any of these people. I don't wish major malice on any of my family members. I don't want them to get physically hurt in any way. I hope that they reflect on themselves, self-reflect, or they themselves seek psychological help, as some of them may have put it to me, for actually quite a few of their issues and insecurities that they don't have a good grasp on. As I was actually in the recent videos very open about my insecurities and fears, if you didn't bother to watch or notice. So anyway, they use a form of manipulation basically where they would say, I wish you well in life, you have a lot of growing up to do, maybe one day you'll grow up and learn this and that, about responsibility and all that. Basically, they use this form of manipulation to look like they have the high ground, to basically look like they to make it seem like, and I know this because someone in my Toronto household, my former household, did the same thing as I discussed. Well, actually, did I discuss that in my suicidal ideation video? I might have. I don't think I fully did, though. Well, basically, they use this form of manipulation to look like they have the high ground, or like look like they're the composed and confident, and they look like they're the composed adults in the situation. Basically, they use it to seem like they have every... That's okay. They basically use it to seem like they're, sorry, someone just... The basketball was bouncing towards here. They caught it at the time. Basically, they use it as a form of manipulation to seem like they're the mature adults in the scenario. And I know this because I've fully experienced this form of manipulation, not just from my own research of psychology and things like that, but fully as well experiencing this manipulation from someone in my household. Basically, where if we got into a fight about something, well, first actually I would bring an issue up to them that I had, try to discuss it, but then they would I would keep calm and I would just talk about it, or say I wanted to do this. This is more before I was 18, or even after, when I became a legal adult. I would say I'm going to do this, or I would like to do this, or this is an issue that I'm having, or I'm concerned about this. And basically then they'd get annoyed, they'd start yelling and projecting their voice higher in an angry tone, talking over me, which would then force me to even get in a word edgewise, would force me to start yelling and getting angry. Now you've gotten me riled up, and I'm starting to yell, and I'm starting to talk in a more elevated tone. And we'd both be yelling at each other, and now you've gotten me right pissed off because of the unfair treatment that this is. And then they would lower their voice. They'd bring it back down while now I'm fuming mad and still yelling. And then while I'm yelling and screaming at them about all the reaction that the terrible reaction that they're having to my concern, they would then have the audacity to say, "Why are you yelling? Why are you getting mad? Why are you raising your voice?" And that is called, well, that's called manipulation. That is blatant manipulation. As one of my friends put it, to when I was discussing with them in Toronto before I left, when I was telling them about my whole home life issues, they put it, yeah, that's absolute manipulation. That is their way of trying to subtly regain control of the conversation. To make it seem like they're the calm and composed one in this scenario, that they're in control. It basically tries to psychologically skew my sense of like anger, to make it seem like my anger is unjustified and for me to feel ashamed of it, and to seem like I'm the one who's in the wrong in this scenario, so that they can regain control of what is going on, so that they can actually regain control of, well, the conversation. I start calm, they start yelling, I start yelling, they become calm, and then they ask, "Why are you yelling?" To basically just dissuade you from thinking that you're in the right for being angry. Oh, that was just a car turning out of a parking lot. So, also, if you can't tell, it's getting dark out. Actually, what time is it? It is 7:22 p.m. Okay. There's no lights around here. Maybe I'll move in a sec if it starts getting really dark out. But I'm also gonna, since there's still time, hopefully I have time, I'm gonna walk over to a walk-in clinic nearby to try and get a quick physical from a doctor, because I've been meaning to do that for the last few months, well, being out in the countryside for so long. I tried to do it the day that I bought my UTV side-by-side after hitchhiking into Lakefield, but the medical center close to there was, well, basically a private family. Basically, you had to have an appointment with the doctors there. It wasn't just walk-in. You had to be assigned to a general practitioner. So, but there's a walk-in clinic around here that I'm going to go to that's open till like 9 here. So, yeah, and I'll tell you, if I have time, I'll say why, because, well, actually, I'll just say why right now. I have blisters on my feet because apparently my boots are a little too big, and it's probably causing rubbing on the soles of my feet and fluid pockets to build up inside the underlayer of, well, my epidermal layer in my skin, heels, and then causing sores and yada yada yada. I'm not a dermatologist, but I'm just saying, just from what I know of dermatology, what I looked up, what I researched about it. Anyway, so they used it, basically, these people, how they've talking to me in the last few days, using it as a form of manipulation to try and seem like they are the bigger person in the scenario, when in reality they are just very petty, very shallow, very attempting to control someone else in a very unfair way. Now, moving aside from that, because again, I said this is the last I will be mainly talking. So actually, I will say this now, because I've already spoken in great detail to these people for the most part, and I left it at where it is now with our conversations. But I will say this, because I already told him this, but I'm going to reiterate it here. So this is directly at any family members of mine watching this. Not so much if you ever call the police on me again. If you critically think that, well, I guess they did in some sense. If you think that you have to, that someone else's life is in danger because of me, fine. As they so-called put it, that I was endangering other people with this, which, gonna say it right now, no, I was not. And if I was, I would bear the consequences for that, as I have already stated. Anyway, so not so much if just someone calls, if they call the police on me, for this. Because I feel that would be very undemocratic of me, as logically with my morals, I want to be diplomatic and libertarian. But, if you ever lie to me again about basically giving me a false sense of free, there's this thing, there's basically it's actually funny how subtly authoritarian my family really is, or a lot of people I've recently known. It's basically, there's this, what I'm gonna say here, there's, well, in what is known as the psychology of authoritarianism, or the philosophy and ideology of authoritarianism, basically in politics or just in social life, as someone who's more controlling and authoritative over someone who's overly domineering. In basically there's something in the psychology of authoritarianism that's basically known as, well, basically it's called the illusion of freedom. And I think in much of the capitalist societies of the world, which is basically just, many would regard I do feel a lot of politicians are just subtly right-winged, or what I guess people would call neo-fascist or neoliberal fascism in that regard. Basically, the illusion of freedom or free will is basically a governmental system based around the societal construct of authoritarianism, basically uses things such as propaganda or a false sense of, basically they have what am I trying to, propaganda and overconfidence, I'll say, in, like, say, leaders, how they project themselves in a certain way. Basically, they use psychological manipulation to, and it relates to egotistical, or being egotistic in a sense, or egocentrism. Basically, and as well, narcissism, feeling that you are perfect in every regard, or your intelligence is very perfect, or more of an intellectual complex. Basically, giving your people the illusion that they have rights. They have, like, well, that they have legally protected freedoms and rights, which people could say, well, in the Western world we have democracy and we're free. No, we're not. I firmly believe that we are not a true, I would say most countries in the world are not true democracies. They're not true. In fact, if I'm logically speaking here, I would say a true democracy would be true libertarianism. I think that would be, or at least in some regard, more true to, I feel libertarianism is more true to a more actual democratic, it's more true to the democratic principles, or of the philosophy of democracy. But again, not libertarian capitalism. I'm just speaking governmentally libertarianism. But because again, I'm logically a libertarian communist. But anyway, the illusion of civil rights, basically. We have, like, what I'd consider basic human rights, but governmentally, like legally in a policed system, what is giving people, like through propaganda and things like that, the illusion that you have free will, when in reality you are very constricted, which relates to, I think, a lot of Western world and policing and stuff like that, and control over a system where the policing structure is not there to, despite what many people may think, it's not there to serve and protect. Again, I think there are individual cops that are there to serve and protect. Not many, but there are. But the system is very much not there to serve and protect. It's there to keep control over the laws that have been put in place, no matter what that law is. So basically, okay, I'm rambling on here. The illusion of free will. This also pertains to authoritarianism in relationships and friendships and things like that, whether it be a romantic or sexual relationship, a romantic relationship, a friendship, platonic sexual relation, romantic sexual, whatever it is, business relationship, it doesn't matter. It's basically, you can use this idea of giving someone free will and choice, but in reality having subtle control over them. And I very much feel that my family members have done this to me. They used this tactic of authoritarianism, basically, whether they knew it or not, because again, I believe people are flawed, severely flawed. I think many people in the world still now logically are very ignorant to things. I don't think a lot of people, unfortunately, truly critically think, because again, I think a lot of school systems of the world encourage like this pseudo-critical thinking and just like surface-level critical thought. But and not even that, just people in general, unfortunately, like really praise just pseudo-critical thinking. Though I logically think that we are all capable of critical thoughts on a great scale, but anyway. Basically, my family gave me, my relatives gave me a false sense of free will. I have free will, but because we all have free will, philosophy of mine that I believe is inherently that we all have free will, even in a dictatorship or a dictatorly government. We have the ability to choose to act out something, whether or not we're punished for it. We technically internally all have emotional and cognitive free will. But anyway, basically, they gave me the idea that they would leave me to my own devices, make my own choices, because they thought it seemed like they respected my intelligence and my critical thought process and reasoning. It's even if they didn't agree with it, they said they don't agree with it, but we leave you to your own devices and we wish you the best of luck, is basically what all of them would say before they would leave the place, whenever they'd come up to party their asses off. And then they went and pulled the rug out from under me, got the law enforcement involved, and to me that is subtle authoritarianism. So basically, what I'll say here, it's not so much as if you ever call the police on me again. If you ever give me the illusion of my own choices and leaving me to my own devices, if you give me that lie and pretending to understand, not even understand, just pretending to actually take me seriously, and then pulling a 180 and then calling the police on me for it and reporting me out for supposedly my safety and others' safety, then I am going to cut all contact with every single one of you, and I will block all of your numbers from any device that I have, whatever devices I have in the future. Right now it's just, well, my phone and, well, chargers. That's what I own in terms of electronic devices. So I will cut all contact with you. I will block your numbers. You will, and I don't want to say never hear from me again, because I feel like, because again, with my whole stance on anti-promo declaratism, as I've talked about, not making promises because I believe nothing is concretely indefinite. But I will say, you at the very least will not hear from me, or you will not hear from me for a very long time. And as I've also stated in the video where I was talking about the night that all this happened, you will, going forward, whether you apologize to me or try and make amends with me, well, going forward, even if we do get to a forgiving page again, which I'm more than open to, by the way. I'm all ears for you to apologize to me. I'm not going to force you to. I want you to think about whether you feel the need to say you're sorry, really examine your pride and all that. I'm not going to tell you to, even though I feel I'm owed one. I don't like telling people to say they're sorry, because to me that feels like another form of insincerity. Insincerity. It feels fake. It's funny, a lot of parents as well encourage, like, they say, like, if their child gets into a fight, they say, now tell your sibling, if they get into like a scrap with their siblings, like, okay, you hurt them, tell them you're sorry, and then shake hands and then move on. That's really just a controlling of their own choices, and also that feels like fake sincerity. That just feels like you're forcing them to say sorry without them actually choosing to say sorry, reflecting on themselves and actually regretting what they did. Even if we do get to a forgiving page, you are not knowing any more of my journey unless you watch this channel and whatever I say on this going forward. But directly from me, like through messaging or phone calls, you're not going to hear my plans through me. Hell, there's probably a few more things that I may even keep private from this channel as well. I know I detailed in one of my videos my travel plan, my route. Well, not my absolute route, because I don't know my absolute route. I didn't even know until like the day that I was going to get going for heading up here to Ottawa. I was looking at maps, is basically my route. Just picking a general direction and fucking going. And as I said, I'm trying to get to Iqaluit, Nunavut. So, and again, if you don't think I'm serious about that, I'm dead serious about that. Unless, again, as I'll say, unless I realize something else here in Ottawa, or I discern something else for myself, and my direction, my planned route changes to somewhere else, or staying here, I don't know. But as of right now, it is still Iqaluit, Nunavut, and I am fucking dead serious about that. So, and I'm dead serious that whether I have a license or not, because I'm going to try and get some sort of, I'm already in the process with my family friend of trying to get further identification for me, an Ontario citizenship card, an identity card, and then oh. Sorry, people just keep losing their balls. But anyway, I'm getting trying to get an Ontario citizenship card. I will be trying to get some form of license identification, maybe even registration for my side-by-side. Again, if I still have it by the time I get going. And whether or not I obtain a license of some kind, I'm fucking going. I am purchasing a small vehicle. Oh, yes, and even if I have a license, I'm not purchasing a car. Because I don't think these idiots realize that, as I said in that video of me being the last night at the cottage, I don't fucking have the money for insurance. And I sure as hell don't have the money, and most likely for my time, as I will also be looking for a job here in Ottawa, most likely by the time I get going, won't have the money to buy a car, a standardized vehicle that you see on the roads of any kind, as most usually cost at the very least over, in general, $100,000. And that's like, I'd say that's even actually probably being like very much on sale, is like 100,000 to around there. Maybe if you're lucky and you found like a really beat up car, a really like used, worn out, beat up car, you could find it for like $95,000 or $90,000. But I think that's very rare. So whether or not I have a license, I'm still buying a small vehicle. Maybe another side-by-side, which even if I have a license, still not allowed on fucking major roadways or highways. We'll still be taking it on major roadways, for your information. Through into Quebec and up to Labrador and all that. So, again, if you ever lie to me like you did, and then well, if you ever lie to me, insult my intellectual abilities again in that way, and then report me to the QPP, or what is it called in the Quebecois form of French, Sécurité de la Québec, or something along those lines. If you ever report me to Sécurité de la Québec, or the Quebec Provincial Police, I'm cutting all contact with you. Absolutely cutting contact with you. Now, it's getting dark. You can't really see my face, I know, but I'm comfortable enough in this spot here. So now, that's what I have to say to my family members. Thank you for your betrayal. I will learn a lot from that betrayal, or try to learn as much as I can from it, and the loss of your trust. So, now let's shift to another part of this issue. My friend in Toronto, my fellow artist friend. So, I briefly mentioned them, and I'm not gonna use names. Not gonna use names in or positions. I mentioned I left a comment on one of their social media platforms, so that's the most I'll say about that. They sided, long story short, if you didn't see the video where I talked about when I was walking out to the entrance of the village of Crow's Landing, where the cottage was situated, and talking about losing that friendship with this artist friend of mine. I don't wish them spite. I still don't wish them spite. But now again, after reflecting on this for a week, if you are watching this, fuck you. Sincerely, fuck you as well. So your text, I guess, was somewhat right, that I would view you in the same light, because they said in their text as well that after seeing the video of me ranting about my that one relative who reported me to the police, that I'd view them in the same light. At first, I didn't so much view them as much anger as them, at least in some regard. It hurt like a fucking nail through my back. You telling me to stay in touch and then basically cutting me off. That hurt. That really did fucking hurt. But with that, now I will say, yeah, no, now I am very much more livid and angry at you. So angry. And I'm not going to say I'm disappointed, because I don't think people should care, unless it's like founded. Like, I don't think people should care whether someone's like disappointed in you. Again, this is me even saying it with my leaning histrionic tendencies that I have. I think you should reflect on whether you thought what you did was detrimental. I don't think you should care solely whether someone is disappointed in you. But I will say I am mad at you. Very mad. Out of all the people who I thought would be ageist towards me, who would dismiss me and just betray my trust in the way that you did, you were the last. And I very much mean this. I very much mean you were the last person I thought I would hear that from. The ageism and the just dismissal of my critical reasoning and thought process. Now, I'll also say, one person in my family actually, by the way, this person I'm going to say is one of the people who, going back on this for a quick second, they said, basically they were one of the people trying to seem like the bigger person in this scenario, saying that we've only tried to guide you and care for you, and that we want you to get the help that you deserve, or like get the help you need. Yeah, says the person who just thinks, as they told me by the bonfire one night, that they just believe some people are born wrong in pertaining to sociopaths / psychopaths, or murderers or things like that. Saying that some people are just born wrong and you couldn't care if, say, like child rapists or things like that, or murderers were just serial killers, were strung up by their necks. Now, I don't know if that was just because you were drunk, as I don't... Here's another thing of my beliefs that I've really started to realize. There was a famous philosopher, I forget what it was, if it was, I don't fucking know, Socrates or something, the Greek philosophers, who said that alcohol does not, it does not bring on vice, it reveals it. I firmly do not believe in that. Alcohol in high amounts, and again, this is not hating on anyone who drinks alcohol. I think there is some benefit for it for relaxation. It can help your heart, your liver in certain quantities, and it can be good, relaxing, sweet tasting, well, not sweet tasting, but it can be a good drink to have, even though I don't personally drink, but I'm just saying. But in large quantities, alcohol can distort your cognitive function. It can I forget which chemical it can make an overproduction of, but it can distort like critical thinking and reasoning in your cerebrum, in your neurocortexes. It can disrupt your thought process and behavior and reasoning and judgment. So I guess it can also mainly have an effect on the temporal lobe, and I guess maybe like the prefrontal cortex in a sense, but really I guess for behavior, I guess and reasoning and critical moral judgment would be the temporal lobe. But basically, now, is that an excuse for certain people's shitty behaviors while drunk? Absolutely not. At least I logically think not, but this is also why I'm logically for criminal rehabilitation for heinous acts committed while drunk. But, so anyway, off of that topic, I'm just saying, I don't know if you said this just while drunk, but it seemed like, from what we talked about in the days following, and how most of your behavior clearly is, that you did mean this. So yeah, this whole bigger person stance you're trying to take with your inflated ego, which it very much is, this whole high ground thing. I don't want to say high ground, because a lot of people have also told me don't take the moral high ground on things, which I also think is stupid, because, well, if you hold a firm opinion on anything, you really are just taking the moral high ground in that stance, I really believe. If you have a strong opinion on anything, that's you taking some form of moral high ground, or at least an opinionated high ground. But anyway, so says the person who believes that some people are just born wrong. But anyway, back to this friend in Toronto. We spent so much time talking when I was suicidal, when I was experiencing suicidality, which I am not anymore. You helped me through so much, and you were so understanding. You understood the most, it actually seemed, out of everyone that I spoke to. You gave me so much advice. By the way, you also put in about how keeping up with advice. I didn't ask for advice, by the way, when I wanted to try and talk to you over the few months. You can give advice if you want to, but I'm not asking for it. So I'm more than happy to, if someone, I feel this is at least what I do. If you should ask someone if they would like advice, and if they don't want advice, just listen to them. And if they would like advice, try and offer what you can, or you feel like you can in that scenario. And if you don't think you can offer anything, then merely listen. But you were so kind and actually understanding of the scenario. You didn't agree with me, but you supported at least the idea that if I needed to leave the city to try, that if I felt that I absolutely had to leave the city, to do so, which I did. And I didn't go by bus or train, as I have stated before, because of me feeling like burdening those people, the workers, what I may miss if I took the train or bus to somewhere, what I may miss in the rural areas, people I encounter and all that. And there aren't train connections to every fucking city or place I wanted to go on my route up to Iqaluit. There aren't train connections or bus connections all the way, so at least for the most part. So I needed a vehicle of some kind, also for if I'm situated in an area that's rural, to get around. So yeah, that is why I left on foot, or by myself, left Toronto. So, and also, this person from Toronto said in their text, basically they just said, I wish you luck for the future. You're not going to find your ethics by running. You're going to find them in your, again, ageism. They can't predict when I will find these things. Neither can I. Basically, you'll find it in your late 20s when you stop running from your problems and face them. Good luck. Let me make something perfectly clear, because here's the two options. Again, either A, you've completely misinterpreted everything I've said over the last 6 or 7 months, or you never understood it in the first place, or you never even bothered to, like, never even tried to. You just inserted your sense of self into it because you wanted to feel important or intelligent. And again, this is if you just didn't care. For the longest time, as I have said, and I'm not going to repeat the whole thing that I said, me explaining my ethics better in the before leaving the cottage videos. Again, go watch those videos in full, if you actually care to understand. Trying to understand, at least. I am out here because my research for my own critical thinking and understanding of the world, accompanied by my experiences in that city, it was no longer working, that method. I did that constantly. I still do research to keep up with things, but just merely researching and going off of my experiences in the city, it no longer worked. For my views on the world and human nature, psychology, neurology, just physiology in general, philosophy, ideology, sociology, culture, tradition, it didn't work anymore. And that's, again, not saying I'm right about everything. I don't think I'm right about everything. Here's something here's me admitting I was wrong about. I just admitted that I may have been wrong about making a further mess of my extended relatives college, and here's something I was wrong about as well recently. When I was talking to a friend of mine, a former co-worker as well, from the same place of work that you are, by the way, on the phone, I actually didn't even realize this. I somewhat strawmanned what they were telling me, like a straw man argument, where it's a form of manipulation as well, that I wasn't even aware that I was doing. That they said something about, like, because I felt like I was burdening people and they were trying to understand it. Basically, they said something about if you take if you're someone living on the street, you're using up communal services, you're sleeping outside on private property and stuff like that. Are you not being a burden on them as well? Aren't you being a burden then? Then I said something about, well, so-and-so, homelessness is a thing, and like, well, people sleep on the streets, and that I don't consider homeless people to be a burden, like, and then they cut me off, and I think rightfully so, and they said, no, wait, don't put words in my mouth like that. I didn't say that. I'm not implying that homeless people are a burden. I'm saying by your stance is that. And I next time I call them, I'm actually going to apologize to them. I should have already apologized, but if they're seeing this, I apologize to you. I'm sorry for that. You are absolutely right. I was straw manning you. I didn't even realize it. That's a form of manipulation. So I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry I was wrong for straw manning your point there. I was wrong for putting words in your mouth that you did not say, or that you really did not imply. So I was wrong about that. So, but here's the thing. Even though I had always known that I can be wrong about things, and I'd been wrong about things in the past and furthered my knowledge, so much of my beliefs that I logically held emotionally I didn't feel emotionally connected to them anymore, and also logically they just didn't feel like they were making sense anymore in many regards. Seemed like it. And no matter what I did, being there made it worse, and I could not figure it out. So, and despite what advice you had given me or anyone else. So, what I am doing out here as well, trying to see what I realize, here's another more simple version of what I'm out here for. As I explained, seeing about human nature, are we all just sociopathic, and do we all just put on a face in many regards, at least on a wide scale, to like better benefit ourselves? Are we really so fragile that when we're children we learn something from a very young age and we can never truly emotionally internally go back from it? Can people really change? If there is, well, if that is even possible, or at the very least, if it is possible, can people change? Can things change on a wide scale and not just take on a subtle form of something, of a problem? Is art, the artistic creation of what I want to do with video game writing, pornography, and stock photography, is any of it really worth it? Is it just full escapism? Is art really just talking and distracting ourselves from the inevitability of death? Is the so-called meaning of life to find a meaning for yourself, is that just not another distraction to keep us going in this meaninglessness? Those are the main things. Or are empaths, if there are people who are empathic, myself included, if I truly am. I'm also analyzing myself during all this. Are we the small few? Anyway, point being, out of all that, the reason I am even here in Ottawa is because I need to experience and see how the world works firsthand. I have decided that I need to see the problems of the world and whatever good there is in it, other work positions, other people's viewpoints, and all that, and community interaction firsthand in other parts of the world than just Toronto. I basically need to experience this firsthand. I need to travel. I need to go and see it and put myself in the scenarios to see how it works. If it works firsthand. I cannot just keep sitting around researching and having my limited experience in my own community. Now, I still logically feel that people can do that and have a good grasp on the world and understand the world greatly and how they discern for themselves and have good understanding of it. I'm not saying my way is superior. I feel that I did that for a long time and I thought my morals were sound enough, and when I changed my moral standing, I thought from the method I had done, it was good, it was well-rounded. So people can do that. Many people do that. They research and have their own limited experience in their community. But I personally cannot anymore. I can't. I could not. So for me, I left that city. Which, by the way, again, financially as well as another issue is I discussed when I left my original household and was staying with that friend of mine, not this friend that I'm speaking to, another friend of mine, for a week before I slept on the streets of Toronto, beginning of this journey of mine. I was figuring out housing. Let's be real, as I said this in my previous videos. I did not have near enough to afford any place for myself in that fucking city. If I had rented a studio apartment on the budget that I had, I would have been able to pay, and the job that I had, I would have been able to pay a month's rent at the most, and then I would have been flat out broke. Completely broke. I would have been completely moneyless. So, I may have had to have left the city if I was going out on my own anyway, financially. I might have needed to. I might have had no choice. It was even options discussed. We discussed it, literally, while I was working with you. So, those are the reasons I left. And for your little stance as well on, I'm running from my problems. No, I'm not. I think a lot of people, especially even some professionals in the psychiatric field, think that literally just physically moving your geographic location, like where you're situated, physically moving yourself, is a form of running from your problems. In some people, yes, people can internalize their problems and just run from it. They run from social conflict. They run away. They run and run to just basically try and escape the problems left back there. And in a sense, with my suicidality and also I should apologize. I want to apologize for something I should have made aware. I said this in the description of my suicidal ideation video. It sounded like I was over fetishizing the culture of that one country that I was going to kill myself in, or book a flight to and kill myself in if I went through with suicide. I apologize for that. I wasn't trying to over fetishize the culture. As I said in the description, there are terrible people in that country as well. The government is horrible. It's stronghold authoritarian run. There are shitty cultural traditions as well. I love many of the cultural traditions of it, but there are also shitty ones that also pertain to premarital, it's heavy on no premarital intercourse or activities and things like that, and also hierarchy of parents over child, and also hierarchy of more male dominance in certain regards in that society. But so there are shitty things about that culture and society, but I was trying to, in the video with the mindset I was in, how suicidal I was trying to focus on the positive elements. I wasn't trying to over fetishize that culture or over exotify it. But anyway, so I apologize for anyone. Well, I'm not going to say what country it was yet, in case in future it was again to ever hurt my chances of getting into that country, not to kill myself but just to travel to. But anyway, going off on a tangent. Anyway, so I felt I had to leave. I had to go. Okay, I'm just quickly checking my surroundings as I just realized that everyone seems to have left the park, exited the dark, decrepit, open, forested park on this side. Anyway, basically, so I'm just being a bit more vigilant. So I had to leave the city. I had to. So I'm not running from my problems, actually, is what I was going to get back on topic of that. I am literally running straight into my problems. I am facing my problems head on. Me going and experiencing the world firsthand is me running straight into my ethical dilemma, my existential crisis, my thinking, my ontological issues, thinking about human existence and our nature, my psychological issues, and my morality issues. It's me running straight into it. I have put myself full force into it. And actually, a friend of mine who was the one coworker I had, who was working at the restaurant with me in McCracken's Landing, who I'm still in contact with, actually, and I'm thankful that they said this to me. I really warmed my heart that they said that they think they thought it was very brave of me, and they said they didn't want to sound cliche, but they actually think it was very brave of me what I'm doing to, at this age, to go out, and not many people, he said, which is true in many regards, and again, I don't want it to sound ageist, so I'd say not many people in general, but especially around my age, don't fully put themselves in these more risky scenarios to understand their place in the world, or just the world as a whole. And they actually commended me for that. And to that person, if you're watching, their initials are, well, A, or AH. So A, if you're watching, thank you so much. You have been a true friend to me. I'd love to call you one of my best friends, but, well, I don't know if you're comfortable with that, but thank you. I love you. Platonically, I love you, and just thank you so much for actually, you are like one of the, even though you even acknowledge that you don't fully understand, at least you somewhat did, and you acknowledge that just because you don't understand it doesn't make it wrong, but at least you acknowledge the fact that you know that I'm trying to basically figure out the world and myself, and you commended me. Thank you for actually understanding that I need this to go out here and experience it and put myself in these scenarios to learn and understand. Too many people, and this comes back, I guess, to the whole ageism thing, it comes back to parents, guardian figures, adults in general, or just your friends, people in your life, no matter what age you are. So many people just want complete safety and control. They want everything to just be, and my phone is at 15%, that's why the screen just got brighter, okay. They want, like, complete security. They think that having control or trying to maintain full control over something will give you complete security. And though I logically believe that government that there should be betterment in government, that I think that these systems right now that we have are horrible and that they can improve greatly, and at least I thought things could come close to a utopian type thing, like optimum utopianism, as I talked about, close to perfect, but can't ever be fully perfect, but better. It's still, government won't solve everything in your life, or as much as I believe it is important, has a huge factor for a multitude of people. It won't solve every dilemma in your life and social relations. So it can create some amount of safety and security, especially if, say, like in a communist world, redistribution of wealth, if it was to work, and regulation of prices, and also deprivatization of property and things of the sort, and trying to maintain trying to prevent monopolization in the business world, basically. It can help greatly, but it will not solve every social, like, having a communist, if you were in a communist, let's say if like a communist utopia was to come true, or a socialist utopia, let's say, that won't guarantee that someone's not going to develop narcissistic personality disorder. That's not going to guarantee that someone's not going to develop depression because someone broke your heart, or broke, I guess is referred to in neurology, your nucleus accumbens, which is the part of the nuclei in the brain that is very active in intense feelings of romantic passion and love. That government won't solve that. Like, if you get your heart broken and someone doesn't have the same feelings for you and you fall into a majorly depressive slump, that's still going to be a factor even in a utopia, like an economic utopia. It's still going to be a factor if the government was completely libertarian, or if there was, say, let's go a bit further in a stretch of, say, an anarchist world. If it was peaceful anarchy, not chaotic anarchy, if it was peaceful, then it's still not going to solve a dilemma. Say if you have a fight with your spouse, or if if you're doing a job that you're unhappy with. You may be getting like equal pay, say, like, or in an anarcho-communist or libertarian communist world, if you're getting paid an equal income amount, but you're not happy with the actual job that it is you're doing, that's still a factor. Like, the fact that your pay is equalized, though it's good in keeping you maybe in it's keeping you at a stable level and not leading to you not being able to progress in the social ladder or something like that, or economic ladder, or not leading to you being impoverished, let's say, you're still going to be unhappy and miserable with the job that you're at. You may be like financially secure, but you don't love the job and you are therefore becoming depressive about it, or maybe you develop disassociation, or you might be born with a deformity of some kind, a disability, like say Down syndrome, or like severe autism, or severe articulation impairment. You can develop aphasia, dementia can come out, all these things, cancer. It's not gonna, again, disabilities, like I said, of any kind, born without an arm, born without a leg. It's not going to solve all your problems, is what I'm saying. There will still be the factor of your own personal life that there will be potentially an issue with, and your social interactions with people. Maybe even, again, you're maybe a bit more antisocial or more introverted of a person, and also sociopaths could still form even in a more utopian world. There's still the potentiality for them to form. People can be born, sadly, sociopathic or psychopathic. They can be born without empathy. There can be dulled chemical and neuronuclei dulled reactions in the frontal lobe, which controls empathy and compassion, and yeah, it can be dulled. It's sad, but it's true, and at least from logically what I have researched, it's true. But anyway, so back to this friend in Toronto. Fuck you. If you feel you need to apologize to me, you reach out. I'm not going to stop you. I'll be more than willing to listen. As for now, I'm not contacting you. You betrayed my trust so severely. So thank you, all of you, family members, this friend in Toronto, this fellow artist. You've amplified my existential crisis. You've actually made it worse psychologically for me. You've made me have more mistrust in human, like, what is inherently human nature. You've actually amplified that. And to one of my family members who just said, what you're saying about how they literally said in a text, you know what would help your existential and morality crisis? If you checked yourself into a hospital. Now, let me say this as well. While I was in Toronto and experiencing suicidal ideation, I did go to the hospital for a psychological evaluation, an assessment to determine whether I should be admitted to a ward or not. I was so self-aware of my depression and like what I was going through and the mindset I was in, and so aware of my suicidality, that they literally said in the emergency room, you do not need to be checked in their opinion. They recommended psychologic counseling, and I was seeing a psychologist, the one I'm still seeing now, and I have a appointment with over the phone, tomorrow, still seeing, talking to, but they felt that you do not need to be admitted. They literally told me in the emergency room, you do not pass like the qualifications needed for you, at least at this hospital, to be admitted to the psych ward. You don't. So, again, to this artist, content creator, artist friend, please really think about that message you sent me. Read it back again. The amount of insult it was. How you literally amplified my mistrust in people. Amplified what would be considered borderline characteristics, or I guess the tendencies towards borderline personality disorder. You have amplified it. You've amplified it tenfold. I don't know, again, I don't know if you're getting like a contact high from your chummy buddies around you for your film projects right now. If you're getting a popularity high off of it, I have no clue, considering the very important things happening in your life right now. Again, in your own words. So, I don't know if that's why. I don't know if you misrepresented everything that I talked to you about, or if you were just phoning it in the whole time. If you're completely plastic and fake, like so many other people it seems, and you're just putting on a face to get the most benefit for yourself. If you're really truly deep down in your philosophical stance a hedonist, I don't know, or I guess more, well, I mean, you've always seemed a bit more egoistic in terms of your philosophies, though you did help people. You believed in that, at least it seemed. I know you're a misanthropist, but anyway, you know, I will end this off. So again, fuck you. And I'm gonna hold on. Here's the thing, I'm not gonna dwell on this, but I'm gonna hold on to this anger. Here's another thing about my ideologies. People say to forgive and forget. Here's the thing. I believe in forgiveness. I believe in criminal rehabilitation. I believed everyone could change their ways, no matter how horrible of a person they were. Whether they were as nice as someone like fucking Bob Ross, to as if they were the most monstrous person like fucking Joseph Stalin or Adolf Hitler or fucking, Fidel Castro or whatever else. If you were as monstrous as them, I believed you could change. Or someone as sick as Ted Bundy or fucking Herman Shipman or something around those lines, or whatever. I believe that you could change. But here's the thing. People will say that with time as you get older, you'll learn to just be passive, to forgive and forget. I firmly believe that a lot of people, as they become older, they become tired. They literally, psychologically, they spend so much time being rightfully angry at the world and getting nowhere, that they let their not, I'm not gonna say their young self, they let their insightful self just say, they basically just cognitively go like this: oh, fuck it, I'm tired, I've had enough, nothing's ever changing, it's never getting anywhere, this is never gonna change, I'm now a pessimist, nothing ever happens to change, I was once an optimist, but now fuck it, nothing changes, I'm content. They become jagged, or they become jaded, they become scarred by the constant failure upon failure upon failure upon failure for things to change, to a point where they just forgive everything and become so passive. And I'm not trying to come at this like with a whole like toxic masculine stance. I hate toxic masculine, or well, it's a new term that I actually realized is probably, I wouldn't say maybe a more better term, but is on equal par with that as, I guess, psychologic patriarchy, as is being a term coined for like the influence of male dominant patriarchy in a lot of societies around the world. Basically, they become tired psychologically. They basically just give up. And they just become overly... Now, I'm not saying there's not any... You shouldn't be content with certain things in your life. Like, I realized I've talked about regrets of mine in the past, how I feel I was an awful person to one of my former exes. I feel like... Yeah, I feel, at least logically, again, I'm questioning it again with how I feel about human nature, but for many years after I realized it, I felt that I was content with how things turned out. I felt I deserved to lose that relationship and friendship with them. So I am content with that, despite what, again, some people may think, but I am content with that. And I'm content with losing another ex of mine, not because of being toxic to them, but because of them realizing things about themselves and that they didn't realize, they didn't think the relationship was working out for them, which I was very saddened greatly by. I was very upset by for a long while, and was in part suicidal, not solely because of that, but because of, well, it was at the height of me being very chronically ill and just everything felt like it was falling apart, and okay, that's another story. But anyway, I'm content with that. I'm content with the loss of that relationship. I don't stew over it. I'm content with being alone, like romantically. Now, even if I was in a platonic intimate relationship, actually, I'll talk about this recently because I'm content with being alone if I have to be alone. I'm not harping on, like, I don't think you should need romantic intimacy. You should want it. It's another thing that you should want if you are romantically inclined. There are those who are aromantic, but you shouldn't need it, basically, to function, or at least I logically think to function in daily life. Or same thing with sex and stuff like that. Again, I've talked about my stance on, well, wanting to be a pornographer, of how I don't think you should depend on something for it. But anyway, but yes, there are people in the sex work industry who do go to it because they internally are trying to seek love, basically, which I really think is dangerous and should not be done. But in that regard, not everyone, but there are people who definitely do, who go to it for trying to seek romantic attention of some kind, or like trying to absolve the loneliness of not being loved. But anyway, what I'm going to say is, you shouldn't... what am I saying? God, lost my train of fucking thought. It's cold and dark and, well, is it past the time to go to that clinic? Oh, no, I actually still have time. Oh, fuck, it's, my phone's at 5%. Good thing I have my portable charger. My new portable charger as well, by the way, to all those that I bought with that coworker of mine. I bought myself to get for my travels, specifically up here. So that costs a lot of money. Thank you. Anyway, people become overly content, I would say. And they become... Basically, here's the thing. People will tell me to forgive and forget. I believe that that only works if the person who wronged you is actively willing and trying to put in the effort to change their behavior and actually apologize for what they did. I firmly believe forgive and forget, not even forget. I don't believe you should forget what someone did. I believe you should forgive them, remember what they did, but forgive and acknowledge that they have changed as a person. But I firmly believe that you should, for the forgiving part, that only works if the person is actively willing to say they're sorry and actually put in the effort to change. I firmly believe that, at least right now. So if you're not willing to fucking put in the effort, and who knows, maybe one day I'll become jaded and I'll become calloused and cold, a darn you youngins, old man or old one, which again, that sounds cliche, but maybe I'll become ageist one day, which I sincerely hope not. Or maybe I'll realize something else with this whole journey of mine that I'm on. But logically, right now that I feel, if you are not willing to put in the effort, to change your behavior and apologize to the person sincerely, then that person has the absolute right to not forgive you, to not be passive with you, to not be content with what you did. There's this belief that I recently learned about, a philosophy called, it was some Alexander, I forget their full name, which I only believe in parts, their philosophy. They were arrested for criticizing Stalin and the Soviet Union, but they said they took responsibility for being locked in prison, that it was their choices that led them to being in there, so they were content with it. Fucking no! You wrote a book criticizing the terrible human being. You did not deserve to be thrown in that prison. Yes, good. You remained a positive mindset while being locked in a terrible scenario. That's great. But you did not deserve to be put there. Hold the person, the people contributing to your terrible scenario, accountable. Hold them accountable. And if they choose to actively seek redemption, then forgive. Do not be passive. I firmly believe that that is actually, in some regards, a very dangerous philosophy to hold, which could further contribute to manipulation of someone, to allow someone to keep getting away with their terrible behavior, and for you just to be repeatedly manipulated. I firmly believe that this whole forgive and forget without any attempt made on the other party's part to redeem themselves is a dangerous belief that can lead to you, again, if you choose to believe it, that's great. If it's better for you, fine. That is absolutely your choice, but in my opinion, it is dangerous for many people to just be passive about it. How much charge do I have left? Where is it? I have 3%. So, to conclude somewhat right now, there was probably more I wanted to say. I'll be talking about this. So let me quickly talk about what I'm going to be doing here in Ottawa. Now that I'm here, now I've got all that rant out of the way, I'm going to actively try and not talk about that anymore. One thing that I will state though, for the people who also believing so much faith in the law, for that video portion, that clip that I put in at the beginning of this fucking video, that was of the tractor going down the road, someone brought up to me, oh, well, if you're gonna bring up the stance that, oh, it's a city vehicle maybe, and they're working, so they have permission to go and do that, so then the government, or the municipal government, can just break whatever laws they feel like, whenever they fucking want. But the average citizen, the average Joe, swallowed some of my saliva wrong. The average Joe, no, it's wrong for us to do that. We get punished for that. It's not okay for us to break shitty, immoral laws or detrimental laws when we deem necessary because they're causing massive problems. But no, it's okay for the government to just be willy-nilly, or the police to just break laws whenever they fucking feel like it. That is very hypocritical. That's very stupid, in my opinion. So, yeah. Anyway, one thing I will say, oh god, I'm getting very iffy about the charge. Okay, still 3%. A lot of beautiful stars out tonight. We'll say there's not as much air pollution here in Toronto. Fuck, not Toronto. God, see, there was my mixing up of my words. Not Toronto, Ottawa. There's not as much pollution in the air here in Ottawa, at least visible pollution, as compared to Toronto or the GTA. Anyway, I find it so hilarious. I've been speaking a few days ago. I spoke as well over text to my friend who I've mentioned before, who has heavy traits of a psychopath, who is pretty well in many regards sexist. They're more insulistic, and they're ultra-capitalist, and they're in some regards transphobic and homophobic. I find it so baffling that that person has been more of a friend to me, has not alienated me, and has actually accepted me than the people who claim to be advocates or claim to be for acceptance, who claim to not alienate those who are different than them. It's incredible. The person who's in many regards sociopathic, transphobic, homophobic, which I'm openly gynosexual to them. They know I'm gynosexual. They make fun of me. We make jokes. I make jokes about them being a capitalist. They make jokes about me being a communist. Someone of that caliber has helped me so much through when I was suicidal. They helped me as well, greatly. Just like this so-called other friend in Toronto. They're in Toronto as well, but they also helped me through that time in my life very much. They have never alienated me once. They have been so accepting and helpful to me during all this, and pretty well agreed with me that this person should not have called, this other person in my family should not have called the police on me. They had been so much more accepting than the people who actively are performative and claim, basically performative activists, or claim to be accepting. Claim to be righteous. I find that, what a fucking backwards world. That is incredible. Thank you to this friend who is psychopathic and more seemingly discriminatory, which really, in matter of fact, I think they're more hypocritical in that stance because they really aren't. Again, this is why I'm friends with them. If they actually fully acted out their stances, maybe I wouldn't be, but no. Even though they hold that belief, or at least they say they do, I'm still friends with them. They're actively more accepting than the people who claim to be, like, more, I guess, left-leaning, I'll say. And that's not me trying to slander leftism. I'm leftist, logically leftist. That's just, I find that so baffling. What a backwards fucking scenario I'm in. So, what I'm doing here in Ottawa is I'm going to be exploring. I will take you all with me on the channel, exploring the city to see what I may find, to see the sights, just go around and explore. I'll be searching for more employment here. There's some ideas of what I may be looking, where I may look. My morality being skewed, I don't know what jobs they may be. I'll explain more in another video. Yeah, and I'll just be here. I'll probably be here until, like, maybe all going logically according to plan, maybe March, April, or May of 2023. I'll be staying here until next year. Through the winter months, I'll be staying maybe, this is how it's going to go with me and my family friend. Either I'll be staying with them full time, or at the very least on and off, and sometimes I'll be sleeping somewhere else, or maybe on the streets if I'm, like, downtown or in an area of the city where they can't get to me and I don't want to bother them, and I'll take, like, my sleeping bag and a tent that some relatives gave to me. Thank you. And by the way, again, thought that you would have been more understanding because of that. Thank you for that, though, despite how much of dickheads you've all been. So I'll be taking that at points, maybe sleeping in some other places. Yeah, that's what I'll be doing. So I'm gonna get going now. I'm gonna shove on the end of this just some footage I took of a really, in my opinion, very creepy looking religious statue strung on the side of a church that I saw down on a road close by here a few nights ago. And again, I didn't mean it to be insulting to any Christians out there, but it just seemed very, the statue seemed terrifying to me. Anyway, so yeah, there's probably stuff I forgot to mention in this, but basically the gist of it is, here in Ottawa, going to be focusing on what's in Ottawa here now for the most part, trying to in these videos. Anything else I have to say to these people, I will say to them, like, in my own personal time. Yeah, fuck you, Toronto artist friend. How dare you? Honestly, how dare you? And then my phone died. Okay. Yeah, that
that charged damn fast. Damn, that port. Oh, that's just a car. That portable charger worked really friggin' well. Like, my phone got up to 8% relatively quick. Yeah, so anyway, sign this video off, I guess, somewhat. To, SJF, you know your initials, in Toronto. Fuck you. I cannot believe that you would betray me in this way. Insult my intelligence in this way. And you do what you do. But, yeah. Until I hear... And also, fuck my relatives. All of you who either knew about this one relative's plan to inform the police, or, outside with them afterwards. Fuck you sincerely as well. You are... Well, you follow in a very big herd mentality, it seems. And, well, you're very, very manipulative and performative. You're very, you're plasticine. You're plastic. So, yeah, that's where I'll sign off with that. Whole city of Ottawa is out here, which, by the way, here's a bit more, again, back to some credit I'm going to give myself. I'm 18 years old right now. Whether with the help of other people or not, I have taken myself, moved myself. I've literally moved cities, moving process. I've gone from Toronto to Ottawa. Almost. Or at least in many parts by myself. And I have been fending for myself in many regards for the last pretty well 5 months. Not just for when I was sleeping on the streets and left Toronto and was living at the cottage, but after issues with people in my original household. So yes, I literally have moved on my own from Toronto to Crow's Landing to the capital city of Ottawa. And if I end up living or sleeping between Ottawa and Gatineau, I don't know. But, yeah. The coming days, I will be showing around Ottawa. I'm gonna go get, what time is it now? Yeah, if I can make it, I can. I'm gonna go get checked, for blisters on my feet and a physical at a doctor's. And, yeah, so... Look forward to seeing more of Ottawa and just exploring the city, and also I will be exploring Gatineau too, for possible job options or employment and just seeing around and what I may find. Yeah. Good night. I'm going to go take a piss somewhere. I really need to pee. Okay. To any Christians out there, or more specifically Christian artists or sculptors, I don't mean this to offend you, but I'm sorry. In my opinion, that is fucking terrifying.